Okay, you're good.
Hey guys, my name is Jamie. I am with Art Inspired Academy, and we are so excited to paint with you guys today. I want to tell you just a little bit about Art Inspired Academy, or we call it AIA because Art Inspired Academy is kind of long. Let me tell you just a little bit about us before we get started. We're a creative arts program that works with people of all abilities, so we have classes for everybody. We have classes in painting and drawing, as well as theme based classes like maybe superheroes or art around the world. We also have classes in multiple things in music, so you can have a music enrichment class and learn some really great stuff about the music that you like. We have classes in movement and dance and all kinds of fun stuff. Sometimes they're a one time class, sometimes they go on for weeks. The best way to learn about Art Inspired Academy is to get on our website, artinspiredacademy.com, or to check us out on Facebook or on Instagram. But today you're going to get to spend some really great time with Mr. Richard. He's our artist, and he is going to share with you guys a painting today. So I hope you enjoy. And if you have any questions, just give us a call. Thanks, guys. Have fun with Mr. Richard and Miss Bailey as you guys create an amazing artwork. Bye.
Now, wait, Bailey.
We're going.
Hello, everyone. Richard here from Art Inspired Academy. And thank you so much for having us and allowing us to share this beautiful painting with you today. So I'm going to be switching my camera view to my overhead camera where my canvas will be ready. And we're going to go over all the supplies that you're going to need to get started so that you're successful in your painting today. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that camera view here real quick. I have an example here of the dandelion painting that we're going to be creating together today. Everything that hopefully you have everything you're going to need. You should have your canvas in front of you. Notice that I have it long ways. We call that landscape style, where it's longer at the top and bottom and shorter on the sides. Also, you're going to need just a cup of water to rinse out your brush, some paper towels to dry your brush. You need two brushes. I'm going to be using a wide flat brush, and I will be referring to this as my round brush. So those are the two brushes we're working with, and we're also going to be working with some Q-tips today to make the dandelion. Also, you're going to need your four colors, of course. You're going to need blue, white, yellow, and green. And the very last thing you're going to need for today will be something to put your paint on, some type of palette. I'm just using a plastic lid, but you can also use a paper plate. Anything, even a piece of cardboard would work, anything that you might have around that you could put the paints on, because we will be mixing some of our colors together. If you have other colors other than those, feel free to add your own personality to your painting and use different colors if you choose to. As I said before, I'm going to be doing a replica of this example of the dandelion. But if you feel that you'd like to do a different take on that or add something to the painting that's not already in there, I always encourage creativity. So more than anything, I just want you to have fun with this today. All right, if we are ready, we're going to get started. Now, at any time, should I move too fast for you, always feel free to pause the video. Or if you might have missed a certain instruction or wanted to go back, you can always go back in the video and listen to a part over again. Once we get the background painted of this dandelion painting, before we actually start painting those white seeds, we are going to be pausing our video So you will want to pause your video at that same time, and I will make sure to give you a heads up that we are about to do that. And then we will take a break to dry our canvases because we want to make sure that those are dry before we add that white, so that white can be bright and brilliant on that beautiful blue and yellow and green background. Again, I will be giving you a heads up before that happens. All right, if everyone is ready, we're going to get started. If you notice in this painting, in this example, they've created a slope to this background. So we're going to be creating that as well. And we're going to start that by just using some blue, and we're just taking the blue directly without adding anything to it to get started. I'm just putting a little squirt of blue on there, which happens to be my favorite color. All right, and I'm going to be taking my wide brush. That's that bigger one of the two. And we're going to start here at the top and start on that background. So I'm just getting my brush nice and wet there with the paint. And I'm going to start by just kind of creating a little bit of a slope with this blue. All right, kind of like a little smiley face. All right, then I'm going to put up here at the top, just so I could kind of start to create the direction for that background color that I'm going to want to start moving in. Notice I'm moving the brush in that motion. All right, and then I'm just going to kind of take more blue and kind of fill it in up here. Now, if you want to, you can paint the sides of your canvas. If you want to take a little extra time and do that, you sure can. So let's just make sure that that's nice and solid blue. Again, with that big brush there. Just going to tap up here at the top, make sure I've got at least those edges. All right. There we go. All right, now we're ready to mix some colors, which is the fun part to me of painting. We're going to take a little bit of white. Now, you notice I already have like a pretty good puddle there of blue. But I'm going to add just a little bit of white, about the size of a quarter. All right. And I'm going to take that very same brush. Notice I have not rinsed it out. I will let you know, in fact, a good time to rinse out these colors. If we rinse them too early, sometimes the brush will remain wet, and that moisture could cause like a fading of color in the background. And I really want us to have a really nice, bold, bright background. So I'm not washing out my brush. If you did, that's okay. Just try to make sure you get it really dry before you start mixing those colors again. All right, you are going to learn how to blend colors, which is super fun. First, we're going to mix the colors. So we're making this light blue just by mixing those colors together. You should be able to hold that color next to the color that you already have on your canvas, and you should be able to see a difference. If you feel like there really isn't enough of a difference between the two colors, you're probably going to want to add a little more white. All right, and we're going to do, again, very similar movements to what we did when we put on the original blue. I'm going to continue to move my brush in that same direction. Notice I'm joining up where I left off with that dark blue, the darker blue, And I'm just coming around, just letting those two colors join together and sit right next to each other. I kind of forgot a little corner up here. All right, and I'm coming all the way across, again with that big wide brush. And I'm going to come all the way up here. Notice there is no white showing now, but you can definitely see a separation of color, which is what we want for now. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and do another really bold swipe across here with this light blue. And notice again, I'm already moving my brush in that direction. That's just going to help when we start blending this together in a few minutes, because I already kind of have that motion and that pattern going already. All right. And we're going to go one more swipe across there. If you don't have enough paint, this would be a good time to maybe pause the video and make just a little more paint to make that last swipe, and just try to match the color as close as you can, but hopefully you've got enough. We're going to come across one more time with this lighter blue. All right. Now, as you can see in my painting, there is a definite distinction, a definite difference between these two shades of blue. All right, we're going to kind of want to get rid of that line because we want these colors to start blending together. So we're going to take that little round brush, and I'm going to show you a very easy way to blend two colors together. We're going to take that little brush, and in that same movement that the same shape that we've created, we're going to go take that brush where those two colors meet. And I'm just coming back and forth over that line where those two colors meet. Going back and forth until that line starts to disappear. Do you see how that line is fading now? I went over it several times, and I'm going to just kind of start, excuse me, guys. I'm going to start moving that brush a little bit up higher into that darker blue. I haven't added any more paint. I'm just using what's already there. And I'm very lightly just moving back and forth in this slope until those colors start to blend together. See how I have a nice dark blue at the top, and then we have a lighter shade right underneath that dark blue. All right. Now we also are going to add a few little light highlights inside of this lighter blue by taking, if you have some of this color left, you can add a little more white to it. I'm about out, so if that happens, just mix up a little bit more. And we're looking for a shade of blue that's a little bit lighter than this one, lighter than our lightest blue, okay? You're not going to need a lot. So I'm just putting a little bit here. Then I'm going to go ahead and mix that with my little brush. Notice I still have not washed a brush. I've just set that one down there. Trying to avoid washing those until we need to. Right. Again, go until it's a shade lighter. It's still really close, as you can tell. So I'm probably going to need a little more white in there. Notice I'm mixing next to that original blue. both of the blues because I want to be able to see the contrast in the color. I'm sorry, I'm going to need just, I think, a little more white. All right, now when I compare those two blues, I can definitely tell a difference. All right, it is a shade lighter. Hopefully my camera is picking that up. All right, so I'm going to take this little brush and we're going to add some streaks in here. But again, I want my brush to move always in this motion when we're painting the background. All right, so I'm going to take my brush and look how I'm making these little stripes. I have not dipped into any more paint. I've made a stripe over here. I'm going to put one over here. All right, we're just going to kind of randomly add a few of those. You could probably get about 3 stripes like that and then come back in. Get your brush wet again. And just kind of add some highlight there to your background. Now you can definitely tell that that is a very bold curved line. Now what you're going to want to do now is take this same brush, kind of wipe it off a little on your paper towel. And we're going to do a little bit of what we did with these first 2 colors. We're going to go over that again. And I'm just kind of going over it a couple times just to let it blend in a little bit in the background. Now, if you like the look of it being bold like that, if you like the look of that bold stripe, leave it. That's fine too. But I'm going to blend mine in a little bit into that background. And see, I'm, again, always keeping this motion going. All right. Oops, I see a little spot over here. There we go. All right. Hopefully that's working for you. I think blending is really fun with paint and it can be super easy. So hopefully you're pleased with the way that your painting is looking and ready to move on to the next step. I am washing out my little brush now because we are going to move into a different color and I don't want too much blue on my brush because we're going to be working with some yellow now. We're going to be blending this into our yellow just a little bit. So I'm going to come in with yellow. I have not added anything to it yet. It's just some bright, bold yellow. Again, about the size of a quarter is about how much I've squirted in there. And I'm going to take that yellow. Now I want it to start off nice and bold. So remember how we did when we added the lighter shade of blue? We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to come in with the yellow. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and use my little brush here. You can wash out your big brush at this time too if you want, and use your larger brush for this, if that's easier for you. But I did get a little blue on my canvas, as you see, but that's fine if you do happen to drop a little bit of paint here and there. This is the background and we're creating a really fun texture to the background, so it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so again, I'm coming up right next to that blue. There is no longer any white. Those 2 colors are joining together right there. Notice how I'm still keeping the shape consistent. It still curves. And I'm just, again, coming all the way over to the side, trying to keep it about the same thickness on each side. And just bringing that yellow down. just about a couple inches. And again, that doesn't have to be perfect either. All right. I have that nice bold yellow that I've added. And at this point, we are going to mix in just a little bit of that very light blue. Remember that blue that we made to make these fun little streaks across the sky? The palest of your blues. I'm going to come in and I'm going to borrow a little bit of that and I'm going to mix just a little bit with my yellow. See what I've done? Taken that lightest blue and I've added just a little bit in with my yellow. And we're going to use this color to blend these two colors together because there is a really big difference between these two. That's why we've kind of mixed the color that's in between both. All right, and again, we're going to take that with our little brush. And look, we're going to go right over where those two colors connect. Look how I'm moving it in the same movement as before. Look how those two lines are now starting to become one. Just move that brush slowly back and forth, and bringing it down a little bit into the yellow. Notice I haven't even had to go back into that color again. If you don't feel like those two lines are separating, go back into that color that we just created and add another layer of it. Because the idea is for those blues to start to blend in with that yellow. Now you notice right here, I still have a bit of a distinction, a difference between the two. So I can just come in if I want to get more of that color that we just mixed. I can come in and look, just start blending that in a little bit more until those colors start. See how that just blended together now? All right. We are going to do a little bit of the green that's in the background. All right, this part is what we call the middle ground, and then we're going to be putting some blades of grass that represent what we call the foreground, which is in the front. All right, so we're going to take that green. Let's take that green right out of the bottle, right out of your canister. Again, I always try to work with like the size of a quarter, works for most of the things that we're going to be painting with today. And we're going to add just a little bit of yellow in there. See, about half of the size of my green. So the green was about the size of a quarter, that the yellow is about the size of a dime. All right, I have washed out my little brush here. Trying to make sure that's nice and dry on that paper towel. And I'm going to make this lighter green. You see how it's lighter than the original, which is right here? I kept a little bit of the original green so you can tell that there definitely is a difference between those two colors. All right. Now I'm going to take that green, this lighter green, and we're going to put that on the bottom. Now this is a pretty large area, so probably what we'll need to do, sorry, it's off camera a little bit, but I am washing out my large brush. We are going with a darker color. So that's quite a bit different from yellow. So I want to start with a nice clean brush. You can also use your little brush if you found that easier, like when we did the yellow. Either one of your brushes will work. All right, and again, I'm just really beating that brush on my paper towel to just get that as dry as possible. All right, I think I'm pretty good. I always kind of brush it on my hand a little bit just to make sure it doesn't seem wet. All right, we're good. We're going to take that light green. All right, and we're going to start. I'm going to move my canvas up a little bit. We're going to start on those corners. All right, I'm kind of painting these little triangles in the corners because again, I want to keep that motion going and this beautiful shape we've created here. All right, and I'm just going to take that and I'm just going to come all the way across. Notice I have a stripe now between my green and my yellow. I did that on purpose because we're going to be filling that with color in a minute. All right. There we go. All right, so I have green down there. Then that's the green I added with a little bit of yellow. I'm going to set that brush down for a minute. We're going to put some white with nothing in it. A little bit of white on your plate right there. Again, about the size of a quarter. Definitely try not to use all of your white because you are going to need some of that white for your dandelion. So be really careful not to use all of that. All right, now I'm going to take my little brush because it's easier to clean. I'm going to walk that out and get it nice and dry. And I'm going to fill in this little section here with some white paint. Now, you're probably not going to see me applying this because it's kind of hard to pick this up in the camera. But I am painting this section here where those two colors meet. Or I'm joining these two colors, I should say, the green and the yellow, with a layer of white paint in between them. And then we're going to be blending those in just a second. This might actually be easier with your little brush since it's not a very thick area that we're painting here. All right. Again, it's probably hard to tell, but I have completely covered that with white paint. I'm not going to wash out my brush. I'm just going to wipe off whatever's left of that white paint on my paper towel. And I'm going to start up here with the white and the yellow. Remember how we blend? We go where those two colors meet, and we go back and forth. All right, just back and forth until that line disappears. All right, I'm going to just go over it. And I'm going to come down even deeper into the white a little bit to blend some of that yellow into this white just a little bit. See how my line disappeared? I'm going to try to tilt this. It might be easier to see if I tilt that part. Right, I just kind of came down a little bit into that white. All right, and once again, I'm going to make sure my brush is wiped off really well. Just kind of rubbing it there in the paper towel. And I'm going to do the same with the green and the white. going over those two lines. Now the green isn't going to blend quite the same. Those are two very different colors. But we're also going to be painting blades of grass over this. But we're just going to try to blend it just a little bit. And again, I'm bringing the white down a little bit into that green as my swipes curve across. I'm letting my brush move down deeper into the green. All right. There we have the background. Now let's do part of the foreground. All right. We're going to come in with green. Now, if you already have some green that doesn't have any other color in it, then go ahead and use it. If not, mine's kind of been mixed a bit with other colors. I'm going to just find a new little spot to put my green. If you run out of room on your palette or your plate or whatever you're using, feel free to pause the video and get a new plate. What do we need to do there? All right, we are going to be working with this little brush. So again, I've washed out that little brush. I have it nice and dry. Now I realize that part of our painting is still a little wet down there. But we are going to be working with a really bold green. So it should go over these colors without any problems. If you're a little concerned about that, or if you start to do this and you're like, oh, I don't know, Richard, I feel like that green is not as bold. Some of the whites showing through the green, you can always pause this video and grab a blow dryer or even like shake the canvas up and down for a few minutes to get that a little bit more dry if you want to. I'm actually going to be, after we do the stems and the grass, I'm actually going to be blow drying mine before we do the actual white part of the dandelion. But feel free to do that at any time if you'd like. All right, we're going to make 3 stems. I'm going to show you the example again. The example has 3 dandelions. So that's how I'm going to do mine. If you want more, you can add more. Or if you want less, it's completely up to you. But I'm going to do mine like the example. Whenever I paint a stem, I like to always start at the bottom and then move up. If you start at the top of the stem, most likely that's where the paint's going to be the thickest, which with the stem, usually a stem is thicker towards the top. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to try to do this where you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to do a stem that just kind of shoots up into the blue, kind of like that. I like to slant when I'm making a stem. I just think it looks more realistic. Nature doesn't produce a lot of straight lines, so I tend to like the curve when I'm painting anything in nature. All right, there's one there. Notice I've kind of did those 2 different heights. I'm going to also put one right over here that's going to be the tallest. I really want these to, I want the white part, the seed of the dandelion, to be against that bold blue. Sorry, I'm going to have to move my water, gangs. Pardon me. I want that stem to go up into the blue because that contrast is going to look really nice. Now, I'm doing this straight on my canvas, but you could also turn your canvas if it's easier for you to paint across than away from you. Always feel free to move the canvas in any direction you want to help you create the curve that you're going for. All right, I may make this one a little bit thicker just so it matches the other two. All right. All right, now at the very tip of those, we're going to take that very same green. All right, and we're just going to put just a line that comes across right here. That's that center of our dandelion. See how I did that? Same basic motion that I used when I made the stem. That one's really big. That's okay. It's just kind of like a big rectangle up there. Right there at the tip of each one of those. All right. I'm going to go over. If you do need to go over these two, that's fine. All right. Now I'm going to make some blades of grass down here. With that same green, I haven't changed anything. All right. And again, with blades of grass too, you're going to start pushing from the bottom. Oops. You're going to start pushing from the bottom. And then as you move up towards the top of the blade of grass, try to pick up your brush. I'm going to show you. I'm going to try to do this where you can see my hand. It's sometimes tricky on these cameras. Let me start on this side. That'd be easier. All right, so it's kind of like the way we did the stem. We're going to start at the bottom and then lift up as we approach the top. You see how it gives it this really fun kind of broken tip. All right. I'm going to just swipe up. See that? We're going to do that with the green.
Mr. Richard, can you move your canvas up a little bit?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yes. All right. We swipe up. Then again, you don't have to always go in the same direction either. Swipe different ways. All right. Create different layers to that grass. You just flick that brush up from the bottom. See how I do that? And again, go in different directions. Make those different lengths. The more variation you have in the shape and size of these blades of grass, the more realistic it's going to look. Just flick that up. Let's come all the way across. I'm going to make them a little more tall on the sides since we have more of the middle ground showing in the back there. Again, see, this is one of those things you just don't want to think too much about. You just want to get in there and start moving that brush. All right, until you've got kind of blades of grass coming all the way pretty much across the bottom there. Now we're going to add just a little bit of highlight to that grass by mixing a little bit of white to that green that we started with, that natural green. I already have some white here that I don't want to waste. So I'm going to go ahead and mix just a little bit in with my green. Just enough to where you can tell the difference between the original green and this light green that we've created by adding just, I mean, I barely dipped my brush in that white. And we're going to do a few of those. Look at that. See, we're creating depth to this grass now by creating these nice Little highlights across the front. See, I'm just flicking my brush. See how it almost kind of dries out at the tip? That's actually what we're going for. It's creating a really nice texture to that grass. All right. I have one more thing to do with the green. I'm washing out my little brush. Sorry, it's kind of off camera now. I'm washing out my little brush. We're just going to put a little highlight on the tip of our dandelion stem by, again, using just a tiny drop of green. This is not going to take much. The tiny, tiny drop of each. I've made a nice light green. May just add just a tiny bit more yellow so it's a little more bright. All right, and that's going to be a little, we're going to kind of create like a little head to that stem right there. Just kind of paint a little oval there at the top, a little curved top to each of these. Just a little extra detail, little highlights. Hopefully you can see the difference of those two in the camera there. All right. Now this is the part where we're going to need to dry our canvas. And again, if you don't have a blow dryer, you could do it the old-fashioned way. You can just shake that canvas. It's a good workout. Just shake that canvas in the air until this is dry. It's just really important that that green and that background are completely dry because we are using white, and white blends so easy with other colors and it can get really muddy. So we really want to make sure this canvas is nice and dry. So this would be a great time for you to pause your video. And then when we come back, we're going to finish our painting. All right, so see you in just a few. All right, welcome back, friends. I hope you've had the opportunity to dry your canvas. Mine is nice and dry now, and we're ready to apply that final step. This is where the fun of Q-tips will come in. Now, should you not have Q-tips, there are other options. You can also use the wooden tip of your paintbrush. I'm going to be demonstrating both ways, so you'll be successful either way. But if you do have Q-tips, let's go ahead and use those because it's so much fun. Now, I'm taking about, what I have, about 4 Q-tips here. You can do this with more or you can do it with less. I think 4 is a pretty good way to start. Now, I'm kind of tapping my finger on the tip of those just to kind of make sure they're all kind of lined up. You can also put them on something and kind of tap just to make sure they're all level. You could also, if you want to, you could tie a twisty tie or a rubber band around these to keep them together, but they're pretty easy to work with. So usually just gripping those works really well. Now, if you only do have a few Q-tips, you can also use both ends of the Q-tip. Now, it may be a little messy and you may end up with a little bit of paint on your hand, but what's painting without getting a little messy, right? So we're going to come in with some white paint. Got my palette here. I've got room for some white. Again, I'm not adding anything to it. I want these seeds of these dandelions to be nice and bold. Now we do have one dandelion that's kind of trailing off in the wind. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and work on the other two, and then we'll start this one, and then I'll kind of show you how to do that effect where the wind has kind of caught it and it's carrying it off. Now, if you don't like that effect, you can do them all the way around. It's completely up to you, however you want to make your dandelions, or you can have them all kind of trailing off. All right, so I'm just taking that white and I'm literally just dipping the tips of those together into that white. You can kind of tap it on a spot of your palette, whatever you're using, your plate, to kind of get the clump out of it, because you really kind of want that circular effect. So you can kind of tap it on something, even a piece of paper, just till you start to kind of get those circles from the tips of each of these. All right, and guys, it's super simple. We're just going to go around and start tapping all the way around the dandelion. This is the easiest thing we've done today, gang, right? And look, I'm not having to stick these in the paint right away. Look, I can make it all the way around. I can even put a few in the middle. And I'm going to hold this up. You see how some are a little more transparent, which is actually fine. That's kind of what we're going for. Again, it gives that dandelion some depth. So that's pretty much it, gang. I'm going to come up here. Now that I'm on a new dandelion, I'm going to again dip into my white. Pretty clumpy. I'm going to start tapping over here until I start to get my circles again. And again, I'm just going to go around in a circle all the way around my dandelion. There is no wrong way to do this. And you make as many of those circles as you want. Maybe some of those have already flown off on that one. So maybe that one's not going to have quite as many at the top. I kind of always like to put just a few in the middle too. All right, and you just try to make that again into like a circular pattern. And again, see how just one tap into that white, I'm able to get a complete dandelion. All right, we have one more to do. And again, this is that one that's going to kind of trail off in the wind. So again, I'm coming back into my white. I'm running out of room, but I've got a few spaces here. I'm tapping until I get those tiny little circles, but I'm only going to do this halfway. And it's the under half, or the underside of my dandelion. I'm just putting it under here because I want the rest of it to take off in the wind. All right. See? Only half is complete. So I'm going to put these down. I'm just going to grab a single one. You could use the one, take one that you've already been using. That's fine too. And we're just going to do some individual taps. Let me show you how you can also use the tip of your brush for this. You can also take, the end of your brush, the wooden end of your brush. If you don't have Q-tips, you can also take the tip of that, the wooden part, and watch. I'm going to do a few up here. Tap. Here, I'm going to do a few that are trailing off with it so you can see them a little bit better. So you can also make them like that. They will be a little bit smaller, which is fine. But I am going to go back to the Q-tip, but that is an option if you want to use that. And I'm just going to do, again, a few of those coming into my white. Again, I'm tapping, making sure it's not too clumpy. And we're just going to do some that are a little bit thicker towards the flower. And as we move away, we're going to spread those out a little. There's going to be less of them. And they're going to kind of just go off, like I said, into the wind. Now, again, if you run out of paint on this, go ahead and tap it back in. And look, I'm just almost kind of adding a curve to it. And a few that are just kind of random. And I'm just going to kind of have it kind of trail off towards the top of my canvas. Notice how they're much thinner. The further I move away from the dandelion, the thinner they are and the more spread out they are. Right, that's just to make it look a little more natural. All right, there we have it, gang. Now you'll also want to make sure the most important part of any painting is to sign your masterpiece. So you can use a Sharpie. You could use pretty much any color you want. This is a pretty bold green. So you could come in. I'm actually going to use my white since it's in front of me. And I always sign with my initials. But I think that every masterpiece needs to be signed, right? You can also choose to sign yours on the back. Some artists do that. And there we have it, a finished dandelion painting. Right. Well, friends, I have had so much fun painting with you today. I hope that all of your paintings turned out amazing. I'm a little sad that I don't get to see them. So hopefully, maybe eventually I will get some pictures of some of these finished projects. Thank you so much again for having us. And have a great day, friends. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye for now.